When an empath fights back, 5 shocking ways they destroy a narcissist's illusion of control. There's a quiet kind of power in an empath. Not the kind that shouts, not the kind that fights with fists or fury, but the kind that shifts the ground beneath your feet without making a sound. Empaths are often seen as gentle, overly kind, even weak. They feel deeply. They care too much. They give endlessly. And because of that, they're often targeted by narcissists, manipulated, drained, and worn down until they forget who they are. But here's what narcissists never see coming. When an empath finally wakes up and fights back, they don't destroy with rage. They destroy with truth, with silence, with peace. And that, more than any argument, more than any confrontation, is what shatters the narcissist's illusion of control. Today, we're diving deep into 9 shocking ways an empath destroys a narcissist's carefully crafted world. Not through revenge, not through cruelty, but through the one thing narcissists can't survive: clarity, boundaries, and the refusal to play the game. Because the moment an empath stops reacting the way they're expected to, the moment they stop feeding the drama, the moment they choose themselves over the chaos, the narcissist begins to fall apart. And if you've ever been told you're too sensitive, too emotional, or too much, stay with us until the end. What we're about to reveal might finally explain why they can't let go, and how you, in your quiet strength, became the one thing they could never control. Let's begin. When you're involved with a narcissist, you're not just in a difficult relationship. You're caught in a psychological system designed to keep you off balance. The narcissist thrives on control, admiration, and influence. You, as the empath, are the perfect target. Someone who feels deeply, who wants to believe in love, who tries to fix what's broken. And for a long time, you do. You soothe their moods. You apologize for things you didn't do. You question your own reality. You shrink yourself to keep the peace. But somewhere along the way, something shifts. You begin to see the patterns. You notice the manipulation. You feel the emotional drain. And one day, you wake up, not with anger, not with revenge, but with clarity. And that clarity, that's the beginning of the end for the narcissist. Because narcissists don't fear loud enemies. They fear quiet ones. They fear the person who sees through them and walks away anyway. Let's go deeper. The empath stops reacting, and that's the first crack in the illusion. Narcissists depend on reaction. They need you to feel something: anger, sadness, guilt, longing, because that's how they measure their power. When you scream, when you cry, when you beg, they win. They know they still matter. But when the empath wakes up, they stop reacting. They don't scream when insulted. They don't cry when abandoned. They don't chase when ghosted. They just stay calm. They just walk away. And to the narcissist, that silence feels like annihilation. Because their manipulation lands in empty space. No drama, no conflict, no emotional fuel. And that's not because the empath doesn't feel pain. It's because they've chosen to stop showing it. They've chosen to protect their peace. And that choice, that's the first crack in the narcissist's illusion of control. 2. The empath sets boundaries. And that feels like a wall. Empaths are often seen as soft, overly kind, even weak. But the moment they set a boundary, they become unbreakable. They say no to guilt trips. They block instead of begging. They remove themselves from toxic situations without apology. And to a narcissist, this feels like rejection. Not just of their behavior, but of them. Because boundaries force the narcissist to face the truth. They are not entitled to your time, your energy, or your love. But the empath isn't being cruel. They're being clear. They're saying, I care about you, but I care about myself more. And that's a truth narcissists can't accept. 3. The empath chooses themselves. And that's unforgivable. One of the most painful moments in a narcissistic relationship is when the empath finally says, I matter too. That's not selfishness. That's survival. But to a narcissist, it feels like betrayal. Because their entire world is built on the empath putting them first. The empath sacrificing. The empath staying no matter how much they're hurt. So when the empath finally chooses themselves, when they stop apologizing for existing, when they stop shrinking to keep the peace, when they stop being the emotional caretaker, it feels like abandonment, and they will do everything to punish that choice. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll claim you're the one who became cruel. But you didn't. You just stopped letting them hurt you. 4. The empath speaks the truth, and that's what shatters the illusion. Empaths don't usually go public. They don't seek revenge. But when they do speak, when they quietly tell a friend, write in a journal, or simply name what happened, they do something dangerous. They expose the truth. Not with rage, not with drama, but with calm, quiet honesty. They say, they manipulated me. They gaslit me. They used my kindness against me. And that truth, spoken without anger, is more powerful than any scream. Because it doesn't come from a place of pain. It comes from clarity. And that's what destroys the narcissist's image. Because now, someone who once believed in them has seen through them and spoken up. 5. The empath heals, and that's the ultimate defeat. To a narcissist, the worst outcome isn't anger. It's peace. Because when the empath heals, when they rebuild their life, when they laugh again, when they love again without fear, they prove something devastating. They don't need the narcissist to be whole. And that's the one thing a narcissist can't survive. Not your hatred, not your revenge, but your freedom. Because your healing means their control was never real, that their power was an illusion, that you saw through them and chose yourself anyway. 6. The empath stops idealizing them, and that's when the mask cracks. In the beginning, the empath often idealizes the narcissist. They see the potential. They believe in the good person underneath. They hold on to hope. But when the empath wakes up, they stop seeing the fantasy. They see the pattern. They see the manipulation. They see the emptiness behind the charm. And that shift from idealization to clarity is what makes the narcissist feel exposed. Because the empath was their biggest believer, their most loyal audience. And now, that belief is gone. And when the one person who saw them as special finally sees them as human, flawed, broken, manipulative, it shatters the illusion they've spent a lifetime building. 7. The empath walks away without looking back, and that's the ultimate rejection. Narcissists expect you to chase. They expect you to beg. They expect you to return, broken and begging for another chance. But when the empath walks away and stays away, it feels like death, because they can't rewrite the ending. They can't play the hero. They can't make you the villain. You just leave, quietly, peacefully, without drama. And that finality, that lack of reaction, is what haunts them. Not your presence, but your absence. 8. The empath refuses to be a victim, and that takes away their power. Narcissists need victims. They need someone to blame, to control, to drain. But the empath, in their healing, refuses the role. They don't call themselves a victim. They call themselves a survivor. They don't dwell in pain. They grow through it. And that refusal to stay small, to stay broken, to stay trapped, it strips the narcissist of their power. Because without a victim, they have no story, no justification, no control. 9. The empath becomes unreachable, and that's the ultimate fear. The narcissist can handle anger. They can handle tears. They can even handle hatred, but they cannot handle indifference. Because when the empath becomes unreachable, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they lose their hold. No more reactions. No more guilt trips. No more emotional games. And that silence, the lack of engagement, is what the narcissist fears most, because it means they no longer matter. In conclusion, when an empath fights back, they don't destroy with violence. They destroy with peace, with clarity, with the quiet, unshakable decision to choose themselves. And yes, that feels like an attack to a narcissist, because their entire identity depends on control, admiration, and influence. And when the empath stops giving those things, the narcissist begins to fall apart. But here's the truth. You didn't break them. You simply stopped fixing them. And that's not cruelty. That's self-love. So if you've been called cold, heartless, or cruel for walking away, know this: you didn't fight back with hate. You fought back with healing. You fought back with truth. You fought back with the courage to finally choose yourself. And that, more than anything, is what they can never survive. Thank you for watching. If this video resonated with you, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing it with someone who may be on the path to healing. Don't forget to leave a comment below. Let us know your thoughts, your experiences, and how you're rebuilding your life after toxicity. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Remember, healing is not a straight line. It's full of ups and downs, moments of strength, and moments where you may feel uncertain. But every step you take away from their chaos brings you closer to your truth. Keep going. Keep growing. Keep reclaiming your power. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care of yourself. Stay grounded, and never stop believing in your own worth.